Welcome to another edition of the Star Local Media Sports Podcast. My name is Matt Welch. I'm the sports editor with Star Local Media, and I am being joined by Justin Thomas, sports editor for our Denton County papers, as well as Taylor Ragland, who does sports for Plano, Allen, and Lake Cities. And gentlemen, let's pull two more entries from our ongoing summer question series, and just find two more angles to attack the upcoming high school sports year. Today, the first question, kind of a more broad topic, but we're going to discuss the impact of travel on our respective athletic districts. Obviously, it's all fun to sit here and project the different matchups and talk about the different sports and teams, but at the end of the day, you still got to get to these games on Tuesdays and Fridays, and with realignment, whether you had teams that were added to a district, subtracted, that can kind of impact the balance of a district from a travel standpoint, and we're going to kind of discuss just the ins and outs from a logistics standpoint regarding travel for some of our districts, and just what to anticipate there for the upcoming school year. Taylor, kind of starting with the district like Lake Dallas,
right.
Lake Dallas, Little Elm, and The Colony. Three schools that were in a district that was much more Metroplex centric, and now they have to scoot over a little bit further west to accommodate some more of the Denton ISD schools. But from a travel standpoint, how do you feel like District 85A kind of worked out for those three schools?
Well, I did a very scientific study with Google Maps. Ooh. So starting at basically the district sets up, if you were to travel to every school, kind of like a horseshoe, starting at the Colony and ending up west at Northwest. If you go around to every program, barring any slowdowns, travel time would be under 2 hours to literally drive by every single school. So in my estimation, that makes it pretty decent travel-wise, at least compared to some of the crazier districts in the state where teams are traveling hours and hours and hours to go play a district opponent. So my view on 85A as far as travel goes is that the UIL pretty much got this one right. Yeah. I think all those schools are relatively close. They make geographic sense. The Colony and Northwest are little outliers just to the south, but not by much. And it all just kind of centers around a little bit of a central point kind of between, the Colony and Denton and Northwest with, Little Elm, Lake Dallas, kind of above the Colony. So, as far as I'm concerned, looking at it, travel really shouldn't make too much of an impact on the district.
It's just that Northwest drive, and you're going to have some brutal traffic and rush hour trying to
that's
get out
probably the one
game there on
the Colony teams going all the way over to Northwest probably be the one that's a beating. But other than that, even that drive comparatively, when you look at some of the crazier geographic districts in the state, isn't that bad. So I don't think any team will really have much of a, not that they would make an excuse for travel, but there really isn't much there as far as it impacting teams and games and how things play out. Everybody's got to go everywhere for different sports, but I think it's pretty minimal, and I think that the UIL geographically at least got this district pretty solid.
And then regionally, some of the teams are in Region 1 after previously being in Region 2, but shouldn't make too big of a difference for the kind of the postseason events and stuff. Well, I know a lot of the Region 2 stuff is here in the Metroplex, but Same with Region 1, and especially in 5A, I think.
Yeah. Anytime you're making regionals, you're kind of expecting to have a little bit more of a drive. You get lucky, you get in the region where you go to Arlington or Garland or wherever around here that you can, and you're a little bit closer. But, if you're making it to that level, it's an event, and it's a different thing, and you gear up for it more, and it's the postseason. But I think the bigger impact is district, day to day, and could be a lot worse. Let's just put it that way. It could be a lot worse.
How about you, JT, with the Lewisville ISD district over in 6A with District 6A? I know obviously, Lewisville ISD. The proximity there is. Those schools are always going to stay together. And
and then you have Coppell, which bumps right up on Lewisville, so fits in perfectly there.
With now, I forget. Had Irving ISD ever been part of a district with Lewisville ISD or Coppell beforehand?
I think Coppell, but not to my recollection, at least since I've been here, not with the Lewisville schools, no. But traffic-wise, it's not, I think it's actually even closer than going out to Trinity or LD Bell. I don't think it's not much difference there. Yeah. South Lake's probably about a similar drive for the LISD schools in Coppell as the Irving schools, so I don't think that's going to make a big difference there. Like I said, I think some of the Irving schools might even be a little closer or similar to Bell and Trinity that the LISD programs were used to over the last 2 years. I guess the bigger point is Coppell getting back into Region 1 after Region 2, so they'll have closer drives to their district games against the Lewisville schools, and then in the postseason it's going to make a big difference after it seemed like every single sport in the second round they were having to go to Waco or Houston or something for a playoff game in the second round, and that's not going to have to happen. Maybe Waco at the furthest, maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite then for like Plano ISD and Allen, which then shift over from Region 1 to Region 2, especially in those individual sports like tennis and track and field and stuff like that, where, you could just drive, 30 to 45 minutes to UTA or wherever the regional tournaments are being held, and now that's likely going to be a 2-hour drive out to Waco.
Yeah. Right.
And that's really where, if we're looking at then, District 9-6A, the Plano ISD, Allen, McKinney ISD, Prosper Jesuit District, that's where the real kind of impact comes in from a travel standpoint is regional competition, because looking at the district as a whole, I mean, with it's no secret that Denton Geyer was kind of a geographic outlier with in the previous iteration of District 6A. With that, with Geyer, I mean, it was at least 30 miles away from every school in 6A with the exception of Plano West. And when you factor in just rush hour traffic and just it's already a hassle trying to drive on 35 as is around that time. So when you factor in, I mean, you had a drive like, I mean, this wasn't a school that we covered specifically, but like Wiley was also in that district. Yeah. And I mean, you're looking at from Wiley to Geyer. I mean, that's a drive that on some nights will take like an hour and a half, depending on the kind of traffic that you run into. So it's at least, to have Geyer no longer in that equation is going to at least, make travel a little bit less strenuous on these schools. Obviously with swapping, not Prosper, but Geyer and Wiley out and bringing in Prosper and Jesuit. I mean, the impact there. I mean, it's a school. I mean, Jesuit's been in the district with PISD and Allen and McKinney Boyd before, so there already is some familiarity there from a geographic standpoint. And I'm just kind of gauging where Jesuit is relative to the rest of the district. The range is it's 10 miles from Plano West all the way up to 26 miles from Prosper and McKinney ISD. So nothing too arduous compared to 30 plus miles for Geyer.
It's also something that the girls' sports don't have to deal with either. Anyway,
exactly.
Right.
And then, you can use that same sample for Prosper. Prosper is closest to McKinney Boyd, just 12 miles. Its furthest drive would be to Plano East at 28 miles. So I mean, if you keep all of your drive times under 30 miles, then that's going to work out for all parties involved. Some notable subplots though from a travel standpoint, at least for football season. If you have a road game at Prosper or at Jesuit, leave early. Cannot stress that enough. Prosper's going to have a new football stadium. It's in the works, but it'll be ready for next season, as in the 2019 season. Still got to soldier through one more year at BW Durham Stadium, which has a capacity of 2,000. And it is
for Allen's band.
For a pretty much program.
Pretty much. If you've never been to a game at Prosper before, their stadium is it's not on campus. It is located behind Reynolds Middle School. And when I say it's a stadium that seats that has a capacity of 2,000, well, it's behind a middle school. What do you expect? It's just a case where if you have a road game there, and I was just looking over Prosper's schedule, it looks like McKinney, Jesuit, and Plano West are going to be at Prosper for this coming season. So as some food for thought in advance for those three fan bases, please do yourselves a favor and leave early, because seating is not much to pick from when you get to Prosper.
That's beyond even limited at that point, I think, for a 6A football game.
I've only covered one game at Prosper at that stadium, and it was a handful of years ago when they were still a 4A school. They were playing Lovejoy, and the seating there was the press box doesn't offer much reprieve either from a seating standpoint. I actually had to end up sitting over in the visitor side with my laptop in hand. And just out in the open for that game, and it was you're cramped between, because it was Lovejoy had a pretty big traveling crowd in that one, so you just tried to squeeze every last bit out of that visitor section as you could. It is not a big stadium at all, but next year it'll be a different case. Their new stadium's supposed to have a 12,000 seat capacity, far more in line with a traditional high school stadium these days. But one more year at BW Durham, and arrive early. Same with Jesuit. Their home stadium, Postel Stadium, has just a capacity of 4,500. They only host 2 district games, McKinney and McKinney Boyd. So you see the schedules have already kind of been slanted to where these stadiums, they're going on the bit of the short side from a capacity standpoint, that they're only going to be hosting just a few district games. But it's just some food for thought. Please leave early. On the other end, you have a school like Allen, which only has 2 road games all season, period. They're at Capella, and then they're going to get then they visit the new McKinney ISD Stadium when they play McKinney High. Otherwise, they have 8 home games
at this point.
And actually, one of those home games, they actually did have switched to a home game with Jesuit. Like traditionally, what Allen and Jesuit have done, because of obviously the aforementioned issues with seating at Jesuit Stadium, is they've tried to schedule a neutral site.
Yeah.
Contest in years past. I believe they've used SMU back in was 2008, 2009 when they were last in the district. Unfortunately, they weren't able to bring that together this time around. So they just Jesuit was willing to forfeit a home game. I mean, they'll still get compensated for it in some fashion. But Allen has 8 home games this coming season. Let's see some of the other districts of note from a travel standpoint. With the 5A Division I, Division II split, it was going to be interesting to see which schools ended up getting the short end of the stick from a geographic standpoint and getting lumped in with those the East Texas schools. And it looks like, at least at first glance, McKinney North, Mesquite, Poteet, and West Mesquite are going to have. Unfortunately, it's football, so you only have to worry about it once, potentially for a given school year. But McKinney North will have to make a drive out to John Tyler. Mesquite, Poteet will have to make a drive out to Texas High out in Texarkana. West Mesquite gets off easy this year. They don't have to. They host both of those schools, but that likely means that from a scheduling standpoint, they'll have to hit the road for both of those matchups next year. Let's see, as far as any of these other districts go, Carrollton Farmers Branch kind of comes out with I don't think there should be much of an issue from a travel standpoint of them being, relocated to DISD for all the non-football sports.
Yeah, pretty much the same there. We've been with those teams before, so nothing too drastic there. Some trips to Laos and stuff.
It looks like, though, from the of all the the districts that kind of came up just kind of on the short end of the stick from a travel standpoint, and we don't cover any of these schools, so we won't have much affiliation with this district. But District 36A, which is the district with Euless Trinity, Richland, LD Bell, Haltom, all based kind of in the same cluster, and then they're in the same district as Abilene and San Angelo Central. A nice.
This is the district I was thinking of when I said it could be a lot worse. This is just the one that just flashes into my mind just thinking about that drive.
Because that's for folks who have never made the drive out to San Angelo Central, that is every bit a 4-hour drive, and it is and they're not only having to do that for it's a 6A district, so it's not like it's just for football or anything like that. No, it's like that for all 8 standings-based sports in 6A. Yeah. It's no wonder San Angelo ISD initially appealed that that verdict. It didn't get them anywhere, so they'll still have to to fight through that for the coming school year. But yes, that district from a geographic standpoint, a little bit tougher on the from a mileage and from a because you had to wonder. I mean, just what are road crowds even going to look like for that district?
Non-existent, you would think.
No. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about having to leave at 2 o'clock for a volleyball or basketball game or something.
So I guess were there any other districts of note that kind of jumped out at y'all from a geographic standpoint, or we touched on all of them?
That was the crazy one. Yeah. I mean, that makes the Colony to Northwest drive, even at its worst, look pretty simple. Quick little jot across compared to that.
And then you've got some districts that just like nothing changed. I mean, if you're Mesquite ISD, at least at the 6A level, I mean, District 11 6A stayed exact. Actually, it almost kind of maybe got a tad bit easier, even though the district stayed exactly the same. They lose one less trip out to Tyler, with John Tyler getting bumped down to 5A, and then you've got the Garland ISD trio. Things actually came out much better for Wiley from a geographic standpoint, because now instead of having to make, it's not like drives to to Allen and McKinney ISD or a Payne or anything. That's the only trip that was a beating for them was Geyer, as we mentioned previously. But with them being in District 10 5A with the Garland ISD schools, that's going to be because all those schools are within 5-10 minutes of each other.
I guess to touch on Brian's coverage areas a little bit. Salina, they add Melissa, which makes a lot of sense, I think. That's kind of like Salina, Melissa, Anna, even Argyle. That district's not bad in 7-4A. I think they came out pretty well. And then obviously the Frisco schools. They're all they get to make the trip across town. So I think if we're going to take the opposite of the poor San Angelo programs that have to travel hours and hours for all of their games.
San Angelo just needs
the Frisco schools got to cut like 15 minutes.
Yeah, they just need to revamp their entire model and just build just build 8 to 10 different high schools in that area to mitigate any of these problems going forward. So that's let's look at just some of the travel subplots for the upcoming school year for a few of our athletic districts. We've got another a bit of a more lighthearted question to round this out, and we will touch on that after a word from the sponsor. Today's Student Athlete Spotlight is brought to you by Bavarian Grill, authentic Bavarian food and beer garden. Listed by the Zagat survey as the highest rated German restaurant in Texas for 12 years in a row. 12 years! That's 3 presidential terms. You can enjoy traditional and authentic spring favorites now, everything from appetizers like slow roasted ham hock and potato pancakes to entrees like bratwurst or breaded schnitzel. Bring your whole family for lunch and dinner. They are open Tuesday through Saturday, located off Parker and Highway 75 in Plano. Bavarian Grill. And now, let's get back to the podcast. And let's round this out with one more entry from our ongoing summer question series. This question is a bit more random, more of a hypothetical than anything. Name an athlete in one of your districts that could succeed in a sport he or she doesn't currently play at the varsity level. Always a fun question when we roll this out. A chance to kind of think outside the box and kind of theorize and just how some different athletes would look under a completely different spotlight from an athletic standpoint. Justin, where did you land on this hypothetical?
Well, I got 2 for my different markets. So we'll start in 5A, and I think that we talk about this player a lot, but I think Jada Coleman could be quite a good girls basketball player. She's awesome in everything she does, so I don't see her in basketball.
Couldn't we rule out that she was probably a really good basketball player and just had to draw the line somewhere?
I know for a fact that Coach Pastuzik over there was efforting to get her to play basketball, but she's already all-district volleyball, all-world softball.
They're probably trying to get her to play just about everything, or at least they were.
Yeah, gets to area and regionals and track and field, so there's no doubt in my mind she would be an awesome girls basketball player. I mean, she's super athletic, quick, very competitive, so I know she would put in the work. So yeah, I think she would be there. And then in 6A, got tennis on my mind with Wimbledon going down this week. So I think Flower Mound hoopster Caleb Lohner.
Interesting.
Would be a good tennis player. He's got the height. I think he would have a real powerful serve and ground strokes with his height.
He's got the lateral movement?
Definitely got the agility and the lateral movement to stop and start. I know he can cover a lot of ground, and I know he would be very hard to pass when he gets to the net. So if he puts the work in and with a racket, I think he would be a very good tennis player.
It'd be I wonder how often we've had a basketball to tennis.
Transition.
Transition in high school athletics.
I haven't seen too many tennis players playing other sports, but yeah.
How about you, Taylor? Where'd you land on this one?
Oh, man. Well, I guess looking at 9-6A, there were really several options. Just seeing, sometimes I look at quarterbacks like Plano West, potential starter Will Cannon, just the lengthy, prototypical quarterback with an arm like that and a name like Cannon, and I want to stick him on a mound just kind of due to my background. So I think he could probably hold his own if you put a baseball in his hand and gave him a little bit of mechanic work. I think he could probably be pretty decent for the baseball team. I think Jalen Anderson is one of those guys for the Plano East football team that can probably do just about anything. I think he's officially listed on the basketball roster. But
he was last year.
But I think he could have a pretty big role with his high jump hops and his ability to go up and get the football. But I eventually landed on Allen, 6'2", basketball star and already national recruit Zoe McCrary, who I would probably just stick in the middle of the volleyball team and just teach her how to jump up and to make some blocks. Probably teach her how to make some kills with her height. I think that she would fit right in. As you informed me, that was kind of a cop out for this answer. This is my first year doing this, and you were like,
that's what the exercise is. A lot of times it's just like taking various athletic profiles and then just kind of projecting how they would work, in a different sport.
I think being 6'2" and being able to jump would absolutely absolutely work. So give me Zoe McCrary.
Because I know that was one of the examples that Tim, your predecessor Tim Glaze used last year. He actually went the reverse. He took Lauren Dooley, who is a 6'4" middle blocker for the Plano East volleyball team, and why wouldn't you try to put her out on a basketball court? And sure enough, the head coach Sherilyn Morris had inquired about
So you said this was hypothetical, but I've actually made some calls at Allen, and I hear that McCrary. No, I'm just kidding.
That's the thing, at the high school level, if you're just a natural athlete, then I feel like the lower you get from professional to college to prep and whatnot, that the more your athleticism is highlighted, the easier it is to kind of ease in and just impact a sport.
Yeah, well, that's
versus just having whether you've played that sport your entire life or you're just trying to pick it up on the fly.
Right. Well, like JT, we didn't do an 5'8" question for this specifically, but if we had, I probably would have caught out there and just said, Ryan Depperschmidt from Lake Dallas could probably do just about anything he wanted to. He's already the starting quarterback and a huge member of the baseball team, and could probably just fit in wherever you wanted him if he was so inclined. So that's another easy answer like Jada, but when somebody's that athletic, why not? Why not just stick them in every possible competitive event you can and take advantage of their 4 years, I guess.
If sports didn't overlap, I bet a lot of them would.
Yeah,
absolutely.
My entry for this, and I actually pulled a name that you mentioned prior, as far as just taking just various athletic profiles and just kind of wondering how they would work. You don't see too many. Well, if you do see a football player make the transition to soccer during the springtime, it's usually the team's kicker.
Yeah.
But I decided to roll with Plano East standout wide receiver Jalen Anderson as a potential goalkeeper for the Plano East boys soccer team. When you factor in, just you look at the profile, 6'2", 6'3" height-wise, he can high jump 6'8", which is, just ridiculous to just consider. You watch him on the football field and just the catch radius that he has, his ability to win jump balls, and just, again, how quickly he's able to move side to side. Who's winning a 50-50 ball against Jalen Anderson in the box off a set piece? And who cares if he? I don't know if Jalen Anderson can kick a soccer ball. He might, but if he can't, then oh well. You have teams that use a separate player to handle goal kicks anyways. So I think that Jalen Anderson would have the potential to be just an absolutely terrifying goalkeeper.
Who knows? They may see this podcast and he may show up. Who knows?
Some other examples. Kendrick Johnson. We asked him, what he would pick for this. He rolled with McKinney High's Andrew Pitts, who's already a two-sport star, plays football and basketball. Thinks though that he has the potential with his skill set to be an elite high jumper for the track team.
There's precedent.
Kendrick
we just talked about it. It happens.
Kendrick adds that Andrew is very coachable. He has a near 40-inch vertical and is very explosive despite being under 6 feet tall. And high jumpers, obviously, yes, explosiveness is pretty much paramount to being a good high jumper. Brian Murphy pulled a couple for this. He projects Prosper basketball star Josh Davis as having the mold to kind of mesh as a potential quarterback or receiver on the football team. Ditto for Frisco Liberty basketball Zion Richardson, the reigning district MVP on the boys' side. He's 6'4", and obviously if you put 6'4" out wide, pretty physically imposing frame as is. They've kind of using the parallel of Nolan Matthews at Frisco Reedy, who's 6'6", recently committed to Arizona State. Zion Richardson has the should have the skill set to kind of fit in seamlessly with the football team should he ever choose to do so. And then also Frisco High hurdler Simone Watkins, who's just maybe one of the best athletes at Frisco High, period. And like we've talked about, you just take that athleticism and you can mold a basketball player or a volleyball player out of that profile for sure. So that's some fun with hypotheticals, wondering some athletes that could succeed at some sports that they do not currently play at the varsity level. And that will do it for this edition of the Star Local Media Sports Podcast. We'll be back on Monday with another edition of the varsities, and sticking with the theme from last Monday as we pull another category from our ongoing high school sports awards series and discuss amongst ourselves some of our selections for that particular category. We'll be back on Monday. Otherwise, folks, Justin, Taylor, appreciate y'all for tagging along. Folks, you enjoy the rest of your week. We will talk to y'all later.